Samuel stood in the hallway with a calm expression. Yet there was something in his eyes that showed he already understood more than anyone in the family. Rafi invited him to sit in the living room. Mira and Farah followed quietly, and the children peeked curiously from the staircase. The atmosphere was heavy with anticipation. It felt like every answer they had been searching for was now standing right in front of them. Samuel sat down slowly, resting both hands on his cane. He looked around the room as if remembering everything exactly as it had once been. After a long breath, he finally spoke. "I served as a caretaker here many years ago," he began. "I worked for a historian who researched old estates and important documents. He often visited this mansion because he believed there were things hidden here. At that time, I was young and did not understand the depth of his work. But as years passed, I came to know the truth." Rafi leaned forward slightly. "What truth are you talking about?" he asked gently. Samuel looked at each of them in turn. This house was more than a home. It was a place where ideas were shared and protected. Some ideas were never made public because the time was not right. So they were hidden with care, waiting for the future. Mira exchanged a glance with Farah. The hidden room. The chests, the sealed box, the letters, the unfinished plans. Everything made sense now. "You knew about the hidden room?" Mira asked. Samuel nodded. "Yes, but only in theory. I never opened it myself. The historian told me that one day someone with a sincere heart would find the room and bring the truth to light. He said the past would guide the future." Farah listened carefully. "But why us?" she asked. "We are just a simple family. We did not come looking for any secrets." Samuel smiled softly. "That is exactly why. This house needed people who came with honest intentions. People who would respect what they found. The historian always said that important things should not fall into the hands of those who seek power. They should be found by those who seek peace." The family fell silent for a moment. They felt humbled by his words. Rafi stood and brought the wooden box from the dining table. He placed it gently in front of Samuel. "We found this beneath the floor," Rafi said. "We read the letters and some of the documents. They speak about unity, education, and hope. We do not know if these ideas were ever shared with anyone." Samuel opened the box slowly, his hands slightly shaking due to age. His eyes softened the moment he saw the documents. "So it is true," he whispered. "These are real. These were the ideas meant to help the nation during a difficult time. The historian believed these plans were ahead of their age. That is why they were protected with such care." The family watched as Samuel lifted the papers one by one. He read a few lines silently, then placed the documents down gently. "These plans were never finished," Samuel explained. "Conflicts grew, people disagreed, and those who tried to support these ideas were forced to step back. Instead of risking misunderstanding or misuse, the plans were hidden so they could be rediscovered later. The hope was that a future generation might look at them with fresh eyes and bring them to life peacefully." Mira felt a sense of responsibility settling on her shoulders. "What should we do with them now?" she asked. Samuel looked thoughtful. "You must first understand everything clearly. Then you must choose a safe way to share it. The right people should see this. People who care about truth, not fame. These documents can inspire many if handled properly." Rafi nodded. "We will not rush. We will protect these papers until we are ready." Samuel smiled. "That is wise." The children came closer, sitting quietly on the carpet. They watched the adults with wide eyes, sensing something important was happening. Samuel turned to them and said kindly, "You must remember that history is not only in books, it lives in places, in ideas, and in people. Sometimes the future becomes brighter because someone decides to protect the truth." After spending some time answering their questions, Samuel asked if he could see the hidden room himself. Rafi guided him to the trapdoor. Mira held a lantern, and Farah followed behind. The old caretaker stepped into the room slowly, looking around with both respect and nostalgia. His eyes took in the shelves, the old chests, the dust, and the faint carvings on the walls. "I always knew this room existed," Samuel said softly, "but I never imagined it would still hold its secret so safely." You did well to treat everything with care? Mira asked. Do you think the historian wanted someone to find these someday? Yes, Samuel answered with certainty. He always hoped the plans would be completed one day. Maybe he believed someone like you would take interest and bring them to light. The family felt grateful for his guidance. They offered him tea before he left. He sat for a while, telling them stories about the mansion, its restoration attempts, and the people who once visited. Although many visitors came with curiosity, none found the courage to explore the house deeply. Only this family had chosen to care for it sincerely. After Samuel left, the family gathered in the dining room again. The documents lay neatly arranged in front of them. The sealed pages, the letters, and the wooden box were all part of a story much larger than they had expected. Rafi spoke first. We must decide what we want to do. These papers are valuable, but their purpose is even more important. Mira nodded. We should complete the study first. We should read everything. After that, we can decide how to share it, Farah added. We must stay united. This discovery can change many lives, but only if we handle it wisely. For the next several days, the family worked together. They woke up early and spent hours reading and organizing the documents. Some pages discussed education, some focused on community support, and others talked about peaceful cooperation among different groups. Every line reflected hope, patience, and a desire for unity. Rafi visited a local library to find historical references. Mira contacted a friend who studied old manuscripts, asking only for guidance on preservation techniques, without revealing the true source. Farah kept the house organized and ensured the children stayed safe and calm. Each day, they learned something new. Some pages revealed missing pieces of history. Others revealed ideas that could still be useful today. The more they learned, the more they understood the power of the discovery. One evening, after a long day of studying, the family sat in the living room with cups of warm tea. It feels like we have been given a responsibility, Myra said. These ideas can inspire many. They talk about kindness, respect, education, and cooperation. These are things every society needs. Farah added, the best part is that these ideas are peaceful. There is nothing harmful in them. They are simple, yet strong, Rafi agreed. We can share them with people who value history. A museum, maybe? Or a group of researchers who study old plans and documents. We can show them everything once we finish organizing it. The children listened quietly. Even they could feel the importance of the moment. The next week, Rafi contacted a historian from a nearby city. He did not mention the mansion at first. Instead, he asked general questions about preserving old papers. The historian responded with interest and explained several methods to keep documents safe. After several conversations, Rafi finally told them they had found something important in an old estate. The historian offered to visit, curious to see the materials. On the day of the visit, the family prepared everything neatly. The documents were arranged on the table, and the wooden box was polished clean. They were nervous but calm. When the historian arrived, he greeted them warmly and examined the documents with great care. His eyes widened as he read the first few pages. These are genuine, he said with astonishment. These papers hold great historical value. They describe ideas that were never formally recorded anywhere else. This is a remarkable discovery. The family exchanged hopeful looks. The historian continued, if you are willing. We can work together to protect these documents and share their message with the public. They represent a peaceful vision. People today would benefit from seeing them. Rafi felt relief wash through him. We would like that, he said. But we want everything to be handled with honesty. We want the ideas to be respected, not used for personal gain. The historian nodded. I promise to handle this with complete integrity. Okay. Over the next few weeks, the documents were carefully copied and preserved. A peaceful exhibition was planned to share the findings with the public. The family attended the exhibition together. They stood quietly as people admired the documents and learned about the forgotten ideas. Newspapers published articles about the discovery. People from different places visited the exhibition. They were moved by the message of unity and hope preserved in the papers. the poor family who had bought the mansion, became respected not because they sought recognition, but because they chose to protect something meaningful and share it with the world. Their simple life changed. But they stayed humble. They continued living in the mansion, now proud of the history they had uncovered. The house, once forgotten, became a place of learning and inspiration. In the end, the truth that had slept beneath the floor for so many years finally awakened, and the nation, touched by the peaceful ideas, felt a renewed sense of hope. The morning after finding the hidden chamber arrived quietly. A soft orange glow spread across the sky, and birds settled on the broken window frames of the mansion. Rafik woke early. His mind had been restless the entire night. Dreams of old documents, secret rooms, and long-forgotten ideas kept returning again and again. When he stepped out of the hall, he found Amina already sitting near the small table with a warm cup of tea in her hands. She looked thoughtful, as if she had been awake for a long time too. Rafik greeted her and sat beside her. For a while they remained silent, both thinking about the previous day. Finally, Amina spoke. She said that the documents they found could be very important. She believed they were connected to ideas and plans from an earlier time. She also said that keeping such things hidden might not be right. Rafik agreed, but he felt unsure about sharing the discovery without proper understanding. He feared that if the wrong people learned about the chamber, they might try to take the documents without respecting their value. The children woke soon after. They entered the hall, rubbing their eyes and yawning. Once they remembered the hidden chamber, their sleepiness disappeared. Bilal asked if they could visit the chamber again. Hania wanted to see the drawings of the early inventions. Rafik smiled at their excitement, but reminded them that they had to be careful. The documents were old and fragile, and the chamber needed to be handled with respect. After breakfast, the family returned to the study room. The sunlight entered through the tall windows and illuminated the wooden floor where the hidden panel lay. Amina gently folded back the carpet, and Rafik lifted the square wooden panel. The cold air from the chamber rose again. The staircase looked the same as before, still silent and waiting. The family climbed down slowly with a lantern. Inside the chamber, everything stood exactly where they had left it. The boxes remained sealed, and the rolled papers held their shape. Rafik picked up the lantern and walked along the shelves, examining the labels more closely. Some labels contained short descriptions like agricultural notes, early teaching plans, and structural designs. Others showed initials that had faded. It's making them hard to read. Amina moved toward the stone table and picked up one of the boxes they had not opened yet. She placed it in the center of the table and looked at Rafik. He nodded. She untied the thin cloth around it. Inside were many small notebooks. Their covers were simple, and the pages were filled with neat handwriting. Each notebook contained reflections, observations, and ideas. The writing described the land, the people, and the goals of building stronger communities. One notebook caught Rafik's attention. The handwriting was different from the others. It was slightly slanted, and the ink looked darker. When he opened it, he found sketches of machinery. These drawings showed early forms of tools designed to ease daily work. One drawing showed a rotating device that looked like an early version of a grain processor. Another showed a system to collect rainwater and use it for farming. Each drawing came with notes explaining how the tool would help farmers work faster and with less effort. Bilal stared at the drawings, amazed. He asked if the people long ago had wanted to build all these inventions. Amina said it looked that way. She explained that the person who made these drawings must have been someone who cared about improving life for ordinary people. Hania found another notebook filled with simple maps. Small circles marked areas of land with descriptions about soil, plants, and community gardens. She asked Rafik why these maps were hidden in a secret room instead of being used. Rafik said he did not know yet, but he hoped they would find an answer soon. Amina looked at the metal plate again. She read the inscription carefully. It said that the chamber was made to protect ideas intended for the progress of society. It mentioned that the chamber should remain secure until the right time or the right hands would bring the ideas into the open. Amina felt a shiver run through her. She wondered if their family had become those right hands. The family continued exploring the chamber. Rafik opened another box that held long letters wrapped in cloth. He unfolded one gently. The letter spoke about the importance of unity and cooperation. It encouraged people to share knowledge and work together for the greater good. The language was old, but full of hope. Amina read parts of it softly. The children listened with interest, even though they did not understand every word. The message felt strong and heartfelt. As they explored, they found more documents that carried thoughts about education. Some pages described a system where children could learn not only from books, but also from nature and daily life. The writer believed that learning should be enjoyable and practical. Amina imagined how different communities might have become if such ideas had been widely shared. Rafik found a bundle of letters with the same initials. These letters contained discussions about the future, about building communities with strong values, and about encouraging people to think freely. The letters spoke about respect, understanding, and the importance of learning from mistakes. Rafik felt grateful that he could read such wise thoughts. The family spent several hours inside the chamber. They moved slowly and handled everything with care. The more they read, the deeper their curiosity grew. Every page they opened revealed something that seemed valuable, not in money, but in meaning. These were not secrets meant to harm anyone. These were ideas meant to help people grow and improve. After a while, Mina reminded the family that they needed to protect the documents from dust and moisture. They decided to take a few selected papers upstairs to study them better in the sunlight. Rafik placed them inside a clean cloth bag. He made sure the chamber was left exactly as they found it. Before climbing the stairs, he looked around one last time. The chamber felt like a silent witness to a long history. He felt responsible for keeping it safe. Once they reached the study room again, the family sat around the table. They opened the bag and spread the documents gently. Rafik suggested creating order between the papers so they would not get mixed up. They placed each document on a separate part of the table. Amina read aloud some of the ideas from one of the notebooks. The words spoke about gardens where communities could grow food together and share it. The idea seemed simple but powerful. Billo found a page with a sketch of a device made to pump water easily. He asked Rafik if such a thing existed today. Rafik said that many tools had been invented since then, but it was interesting to see how people had tried similar ideas so long ago. Hania read a passage that described outdoor classrooms. It spoke about teaching children through real experiences. She imagined sitting under a tree, learning about plants and animals. She smiled and said that learning in that way would feel fun. Amina agreed and said that the writer of the document must have been a person who loved knowledge and believed in sharing it freely. Rafik leaned back in his chair and thought about everything they had found. He felt overwhelmed. He believed the documents were too important to be left unnoticed. He told Amina that they should speak to someone who had more knowledge about history. Amina agreed. She suggested contacting their old friend Farhan, the history teacher known for his honesty and calm nature. She believed he would understand the value of the documents and guide them properly. Rafik felt relieved. He trusted Farhan. He knew that Farhan would not misuse the information, nor share it carelessly. He picked up his old phone and called him. Farhan answered with his usual gentle voice. When Rafik explained what they had discovered, Farhan remained silent for a moment. Then he asked if he could visit that afternoon. Rafik agreed. He ended the call and told the family that Farhan was coming. The children became excited again, eager to show the chamber to someone they respected. The rest of the day passed in preparation. Amina tidied the study room. Rafik cleaned the pathway to the house. The children arranged the documents neatly on the table. They wanted to make a good impression. They wanted Farhan to see how careful they had been. When Farhan arrived, he stepped into the mansion with quiet steps. His eyes moved across the wide hall, studying the old wooden structure. He greeted the family warmly. Rafik brought him to the study room where the documents were laid out. Farhan adjusted his glasses and began reading. His expression changed from curiosity to amazement. He looked at each document with deep respect. He asked where the family had found the papers. Rafik pointed to the floor panel. Farhan stared at it for a moment as if he could not believe what he was hearing. They opened the panel and led him into the chamber. Farhan walked slowly down the stairs. When he reached the bottom, he stood silently, taking in the scene. He studied the boxes, the shelves, and the inscriptions on the wall. Amina explained how they had discovered the hollow sound and uncovered the staircase. Farhan listened carefully. After a long silence, he said that the family had found something rare and historically valuable. He believed the documents held ideas that could provide new insight into early thinking and planning. He said that historians would be amazed to see such material. The family felt a mixture of pride and responsibility. Farhan suggested that they should inform a research group, but only after ensuring the documents were protected. He assured them that he would help guide them through the process. The next morning, sunlight entered through the broken windows of the old mansion, waking the family slowly. Rafiq stretched his arms and looked around the large hall where they had slept. For the first time in years, he felt excited about the future. Amina prepared a simple breakfast, and the children talked non-stop about which rooms they wanted to clean first. The mansion looked dusty and tired, but it also felt full of possibilities. After finishing breakfast, the family began their first full day of cleaning. Rafiq decided to start from the left wing of the house, while Amina chose to work on the study room because she liked the old shelves and wooden floor. The children were given small tasks so they would feel included. They collected old leaves, removed cobwebs, and wiped dust from the windows. Amina knelt on the floor of the study room with a bucket of warm water and a cloth. She moved slowly across the wooden boards, removing years of dust. As she pushed the cloth forward, she suddenly felt the floor slightly dip beneath her hand. She frowned and pressed again. The board moved a little. She paused and tapped it with her knuckles. Instead of the solid thud she expected, the floor produced a hollow sound. Amina sat still for a moment. She tapped again, this time harder. The same hollow echo repeated through the room. She felt her heart beat faster. There was something under the floor. She called out to Rafiq. Her voice carried a mix of curiosity and nervous energy. Rafiq entered the room, wiping sweat from his forehead. He had been clearing debris from the hallway. When Amina told him about the strange sound, he knelt next to her and tapped the floor himself. He felt surprised. The sound was definitely different. He removed the small carpet lying in the corner. Under it, the wooden panel looked older than the rest of the floor, as if it had been placed there on purpose. The children rushed in, excited by the tone of their parents' voices. They stood close, trying to see what was happening. Amina gently moved them back so Rafiq could examine the panel properly. He traced the edges with his fingers. The panel was shaped like a perfect square, and a thin line ran around its border. It did not seem like normal flooring. It looked like a hidden entrance. Rafiq tried lifting it with his hands, but it would not budge. Amina fetched a toolbox from the hallway where they had placed their belongings earlier. Rafiq used a small flat tool to loosen the edges. It took time because the wood had expanded over the years, making the panel tight. Each movement produced a soft, cracking sound as the old wood resisted. Amina held a lantern closer, and the children watched silently, their eyes wide with expectation. After several minutes, the panel finally loosened. Rafiq placed both hands on the edge and pulled upward. The panel lifted slowly, revealing a dark, narrow opening under the floor. A cool breeze rose from below, carrying the scent of old stone and earth. The family leaned forward and saw a small stone staircase leading down into darkness. The room became silent. Even the children did not speak. Rafiq took a deep breath. This was not something they expected to find on their second day in the house. Amina looked nervous, but also curious. She asked if it was safe to go down. Rafiq assured her that he would be careful. He lit the lantern and held it in front of him. Its warm glow illuminated only a few steps. The staircase appeared old but strong. The stones were smooth and slightly damp. Rafiq began descending slowly. Each step echoed lightly. Amina held the lantern above the opening to give him extra light. The children stood behind her, gripping her arms tightly at the bottom of the staircase. Rafiq reached a small underground room. The lantern revealed stone walls lined with thick dust. Wooden shelves filled with boxes covered the right side of the room. On the left side were several rolled papers tied with thin cloth. Everything looked untouched for a very long time. Rafik called out to Amina that the space seemed safe. Amina helped the children climb down the stairs one by one. She followed last, holding the lantern high. When she reached the bottom, she gasped. The room felt like a secret chamber built carefully and then forgotten for many years. The air was cool and silent, as if it had been sleeping. The shelves were filled with sealed wooden boxes of different sizes. Each box had a label written in old handwriting. Some markings were faded, while others remained clear. Amina gently dusted one of the labels. She could not read everything because some ink had disappeared over time. But she recognized a few words that mentioned old dates and initials. Billet picked up one of the rolled papers, and Amina quickly reminded him to handle it gently. The paper felt fragile. Rafik placed the lantern on a stone table in the center of the room. The light spread softly across the chamber. Shadows danced on the walls. The children looked around with a mix of fear and excitement. Hania pointed at a metal plate, fixed to the wall near the staircase. Rafik walked over and brushed the dust away with his hand. The plate contained an inscription. The writing was old, but some words were still readable. It mentioned confidential records and ideas related to community planning, agriculture development, and early studies connected to Jefferson's era. It seemed like this chamber had been built to store documents or plans that were important in the past. The discovery felt unreal. Rafik and Amina exchanged looks filled with wonder. They had never imagined their new home would contain something like this. They felt as if they had stepped into a hidden part of history. The room seemed to hold knowledge, ideas, and memories that had been waiting to be seen again. Rafik decided to open one of the smaller boxes. He placed it gently on the stone table and slowly lifted the lid. Inside were neatly arranged documents, tied with cloth ribbons. The papers were yellowed with age, but still in good condition. Some pages held detailed drawings of farming tools. Others contained writings about early educational plans. The handwriting was elegant and steady. Amina felt her breath catch. These documents did not look ordinary. They looked important. They seemed to hold ideas that might have shaped early thinking during that time. Bilal and Hania leaned closer, fascinated by the old drawings. Rafik told everyone to be gentle and not touch too much. He wanted to examine everything carefully before taking anything upstairs. Amina agreed. She suggested bringing just a few sample papers to study in better light. They placed 3 documents inside a small cloth bag and kept the rest inside the boxes. Before leaving the chamber, Amina checked if there were any signs of danger. The room felt still and stable. The stone walls were strong, and the ceiling had no cracks. Rafik lowered the lantern and took one last look around the chamber. He felt that this place had been created with purpose. It was not just storage. It was a secret archive. They climbed up the stairs carefully. When they reached the study room again, the warm daylight felt comforting after the cool, dark chamber. Rafik placed the cloth bag on the desk and closed the floor panel gently. He covered it with the carpet again to protect it from dust. The family gathered around the desk and opened the cloth bag. With careful hands, Amina unfolded the first document. The paper felt crisp and delicate. It contained handwritten notes discussing new ways to teach children about community, nature, and responsibility. It also carried ideas about encouraging young people to think creatively. Amina felt amazed. These were not ordinary thoughts. They felt like seeds of early systems written long ago. The second document held diagrams of small machines that seemed to be early versions of inventions that were never completed. The ideas looked detailed and creative, showing an attempt to improve simple tasks. The family felt curious about why these designs had been hidden rather than shared. The third document was a long letter written with great care. It spoke about the importance of knowledge, fairness, and progress. It expressed a desire to build a society that believed in learning and understanding. The words felt sincere and inspiring. Amina read parts of it aloud while the children listened quietly. As the day passed, the family continued discussing the meaning of their discovery. They felt excited but also a little overwhelmed. They knew the documents had historical value. They needed someone who could understand them fully. Rafik wanted to protect the chamber and its contents. He promised he would not reveal it to anyone without thinking carefully. Evening arrived. But the family remained gathered in the study room. The mansion felt different now. It no longer seemed like an old building. It felt alive, filled with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Rafik looked at the closed floor panel and felt the weight of responsibility. Amina placed her hand on his shoulder, assuring him that they would handle everything together. As night settled, the family sat close, talking calmly about their next step. They knew they could not keep this discovery to themselves forever. They needed someone who could guide them, someone trustworthy. Rafik thought of a local teacher he respected, but he decided to wait until morning to discuss it. The mansion felt quiet again. But the family knew that this was only the beginning. Something important had been uncovered, and their lives were already changing. The next morning began with a silent tension spreading across the mansion. The family had barely slept, and the weight of the discovery beneath the floor still pressed heavily on all of them. The hidden room, with its wooden chests and old documents, had changed everything. It felt as if the house itself had woken up after a long sleep. Rafi walked down the long hallway with a small notebook in his hand. He had started writing down every detail they found, hoping it would help them stay organized. He knew that if they truly wanted to understand the meaning of the hidden room, they had to stay calm and think clearly. The old mansion was full of mystery, and each step they took uncovered something new. As he reached the living room, he found Mira already awake, sitting on the couch with papers spread out in front of her. She was reading one of the old letters again, trying to understand the unfamiliar handwriting. The words were gentle, yet filled with urgency. They spoke about important decisions, unspoken truths, and hidden plans meant to protect the nation during a time of uncertainty. Mira looked up when she heard footsteps. Rafi sat beside her and glanced at the pages. "Did you find anything new?" he asked softly. "Maybe," Mira replied. "These papers are full of messages, but many of them are incomplete. It feels like someone wrote them in a hurry. They keep mentioning a sealed box, but we have not found it yet. Maybe it is still inside one of the chests." Rafi nodded. He felt the same curiosity. The sealed box seemed important because it was mentioned repeatedly. If it held something meaningful, they needed to find it before anyone else did. The mansion was still quiet, and the children were upstairs, not fully aware of how serious the situation had become. They only knew that the adults were focused on something mysterious, and they sensed a mix of excitement and worry. Mira gently placed the papers aside as the door creaked open. Farah stepped in with a tray of teacups. She set the tray on the table and looked at the documents. She was still trying to accept the fact that her new home contained secrets from centuries ago. "I keep thinking we should inform someone," Farah said as she sat down. "This is bigger than us. We found something that belongs to history. What if we do something wrong without knowing?" Rafi understood her concern. They had talked about this several times already, but every time they tried to decide, something new held them back. They felt connected to the discovery now, as if fate had chosen them to find it. "We will inform someone," Rafi said calmly. "But before that, we must understand everything. If we do not know the full story, others may take it away without telling us what it means." "We need to be careful," Mira agreed quietly. They had come too far to step back now. The three of them returned to the hidden room beneath the floor. The air felt a little colder than before, and the dim light made the objects inside look even older. The wooden chests still lay open, but one smaller chest remained untouched since they found it. It was the one with the metal lock. Rafi approached it slowly. He had not opened it because he felt it required more patience. The lock seemed fragile, yet still strong. He touched it lightly and noticed a tiny marking carved onto the metal. "It is a small star," Mira said, leaning closer. "Maybe it means something." Farah held a small lantern in her hand, shining it over the chest. "Maybe there is a key somewhere inside the room," she suggested. They spent the next several minutes carefully examining every corner of the room. They looked behind the shelves, inside the empty boxes. Beneath the loose stones on the floor, and near the cracks along the wall, every sound echoed faintly, reminding them of how old the room was. It had been untouched for decades. Dust still floated in the air, just when they thought they were searching in the wrong place. Raffi's hand brushed against a thin gap in the wall. He felt something metallic and pulled it out carefully. It was a small key. The metal was dark. It looked like it had been waiting there for years. Mira took the key from him and held it close to the chest. "Do you think it will fit?" she asked. "There is only one way to know," Raffi replied. Mira inserted the key slowly into the lock. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a soft click broke the silence. The lock opened gently. Everyone held their breath as Raffi lifted the lid of the chest. Inside, wrapped in layers of thin cloth, lay a wooden box with carvings all over it. The carvings were beautiful but simple, made with a steady hand long ago. A symbol of a rising sun appeared on the top. Farah wiped a bit of dust from it. "This must be the sealed box mentioned in the letters," she whispered. Raffi lifted it and placed it on the floor. The box was light, almost too light, as if whatever was inside did not take much space. Mira touched the lid and felt a tiny latch on its side. "Should we open it?" she asked. Farah looked nervous but nodded. Raffi encouraged her with a gentle smile. Mira lifted the latch and slowly opened the box. Inside, instead of jewelry or money, they found documents tied with a ribbon and a small metal plate with engraved words. She lifted the plate first. The words were simple but powerful. It read, "For the future of the nation." Raffi felt a chill run down his spine. They were not holding something ordinary. This was something meant to be kept safe for generations. The documents inside the box looked different from the ones in the chests. These were sealed, clean, and protected. Raffi untied the ribbon and opened the top page. His eyes widened slightly as he read. "These papers describe plans for a project that was never completed," he explained. "It seems to involve land, education, and unity. It looks like something that was supposed to bring people together during a difficult time. But the project was stopped. The letters say the box was hidden so that one day, maybe a future generation could finish the work." Farah took one of the pages and studied it. The handwriting was elegant and careful. She felt a strange sense of respect. Someone had trusted the future enough to leave something behind with hope. "What do we do now?" she asked softly. Raffi sat quietly for a moment. The responsibility felt heavier than ever. They had uncovered something that once belonged to a leader. Something that was meant to help the nation. If they handled it incorrectly, it could be lost or misunderstood. "I think we must go through everything," Raffi finally said. "We must read each paper carefully and understand the purpose. When we know the full story, we can tell someone, but we cannot rush." The family agreed. Over the next few hours, they carried the box upstairs and placed it on the long dining table. The children watched curiously but stayed quiet after their parents asked them to play in the yard. The sunlight fell across the documents, making them easier to read. Mira began sorting them by date, while Farah wrote notes to keep track. Raffi read the pages slowly, absorbing every detail. The documents described a vision of unity meant to bring hope during a very difficult time in history. The plans included ways to improve learning, bring people from different areas together, and create a peaceful environment for communities. It was a dream that never came true, but one that still carried meaning. Myra looked up with a thoughtful expression. "If these ideas are shared today, people might feel inspired," she whispered. Farah nodded. Maybe that is why these papers survived. Maybe this was meant to be found now. Just as they discussed this, a soft knock echoed at the front door. They all froze for a moment. No one had visited them since they moved in. Raffi walked toward the door, his heartbeat steady but alert. He opened it and found an elderly man standing on the porch. The man held a walking cane and wore a calm smile. "Good afternoon," the man said politely. "I am looking for the new owners of this house. I hope I am not disturbing you. My name is Samuel. I used to work as a caretaker here many years ago." Raffi welcomed him inside. The rest of the family exchanged surprised looks. Samuel stepped into the hallway with slow, careful steps. His eyes carried a sense of familiarity with the house, as if he had walked through it 100 times. "I heard someone finally bought this place," Samuel said warmly. "This mansion holds many stories. I wondered if you might need some guidance." Rafi glanced at Myra and Farah. Their expressions showed both curiosity and caution. He turned back to the elderly man. "Yes, we do need guidance," Rafi said. "There is something important we found. Something hidden beneath the floor, and we think you might know something about it." Samuel's smile faded slightly. He looked thoughtful, almost emotional. Rafik lived in a small town where life moved slowly and everyone knew each other by name. His house stood at the edge of the town, built with faded bricks and a tin roof that shook whenever the wind blew strongly. He lived there with his wife Amina, their daughter Hania, and their son Bilal. The family did not have much money, but they carried a strong sense of hope. Every day they believed that something good would eventually come their way. Rafik worked at a repair shop. He fixed old chairs, broken tables, and sometimes wooden doors for the people of the town. His job was simple but honest. Amina stitched clothes for neighbors and earned a small amount. They tried their best to provide for their children, but every month felt like a challenge. Bills kept rising, food prices changed, and unexpected expenses always appeared. Still, the family continued to smile and support each other. One quiet morning, Rafik sat at the small wooden table, reading the old newspaper. Amina placed a cup of tea beside him and smiled. Rafik always looked forward to that warm drink. As he turned the page, his eyes stopped at a tiny advertisement at the bottom. The text read that a very old mansion connected with Thomas Jefferson's legacy was going to be auctioned. The interesting part was the price. It was far lower than expected for such a historic place. Rafik read it again to make sure he had not misunderstood. He showed the ad to Amina. Her eyes widened in surprise. For a moment, they both stared at the paper without speaking. Amina finally said that people must be avoiding the house because it needed repairs or had too many legal complications. Rafik nodded but felt a strange pull inside him. The price was low enough that he could afford it if he used the money he had carefully saved over many years. Later that day, Rafik went to the repair shop, but his mind stayed busy thinking about the auction. He imagined what it would be like to live in a mansion that once belonged to an important figure in history. He pictured his children running through wide halls with tall ceilings and long staircases. He imagined Amina having enough space to sew without worrying about the roof leaking or the floor creaking. These thoughts stayed with him the entire day. At home, Amina sensed he was lost in his thoughts. She sat beside him and asked him to share everything he was thinking. Rafik explained that this opportunity might never come again. Even though the mansion needed repair, even though it was old, there was still something special about it. Amina listened patiently. She reminded him that their life had always been full of challenges, yet they had survived every one by standing together. If he believed they should go to the auction, she would support him. The children heard part of the conversation and became excited. Bilal began imagining secret rooms and long hallways. Hania pictured herself drawing near big windows with sunlight entering the room. Their excitement made Rafik smile. He felt nervous but hopeful. The day of the auction arrived. The family woke early and dressed in their cleanest clothes. They traveled to the city hall where the auction was being held. The room was large with high ceilings and rows of chairs. Only a handful of people had come for the event. Most were agents or curious visitors. Rafik and Amina sat quietly while the children stayed close. An official stepped onto the stage and announced the details of the mansion. He mentioned that it was old, large, and needed repairs. He also explained that some sections were closed off due to age, and the new owner would be responsible for all restoration. Many people in the room looked uninterested after hearing this. Rafik's heart beat faster. He knew that this was his chance. The bidding began. The official called out the starting bid. Silence filled the room. No one raised a hand. Rafik slowly lifted his hand. Amina held her breath. The official looked around and asked if anyone wished to raise the bid. No one responded. He asked again. Still no answer. He struck the wooden hammer and announced that the mansion now belonged to Rafik. Amina squeezed Rafik's hand. Their children jumped with joy. The family left the hall with mixed feelings. They were happy but nervous. They had no idea what condition the mansion was in. They understood that the structure might need serious repairs. The legal work would take time. The official assured them that everything was ready for transfer. The next morning, Rafik borrowed an old truck from a neighbor and drove the family to the property. The road stretched far through fields and trees until the mansion appeared in the distance. It stood tall on a slight hill. The white paint had faded. The windows were cracked. The long front porch leaned slightly to one side, yet the place had a strange charm that pulled the family closer. As they approached the front door, they noticed the tall wooden pillars and the wide steps. The metal doorknob felt cold when Rafik touched it. He pushed the door slowly. It creaked loudly, echoing through the empty halls. The air inside carried the scent of old wood and dust. Sunlight entered through the broken windows and made soft patterns on the floor. The entrance hall had a grand staircase with carved designs. Even though the steps were cracked, the craftsmanship was still impressive. The walls held old frames without pictures. The ceiling had patterns faded by time. The children ran down the corridor with excitement. Their laughter filled the house. Rafik and Amina explored the rooms one by one. Each room had something interesting. One room had tall shelves built into the walls. Another held a large fireplace with stones arranged in a beautiful pattern. A third room looked like an old study, with a heavy table pushed into a corner. Every space felt like it had a story waiting to be told. They reached the dining hall. It had long windows, a chandelier hanging crookedly, and a wooden floor covered with dust. As Amina walked across the room, she heard her footsteps echo. The house was quiet, yet it felt alive with memories. Amina placed her hand on the wooden wall and whispered that the mansion might be old, but it deserved a new beginning. The family spent the next few hours inspecting every hallway and corner. Some rooms had damaged floors. Others had mold on the walls. The roof in the storage area leaked. A few windows were completely missing. Even so, Rafik felt hopeful. He believed they could repair the house slowly. They did not need to fix everything at once. They just needed to start. As the sun began to set, the family decided to stay in the mansion for the night. They did not have beds yet, so they used blankets and old cushions they had brought along. Amina cooked simple food using a portable stove outside. They ate together in the main hall, sharing stories and laughter. The house that had been silent for many years finally felt warm again before going to sleep. Rafik walked through the corridors one last time. He imagined how the mansion might look once repaired. He pictured fresh paint on the walls, new lights in the rooms, and his children studying in a warm corner of the house. He closed his eyes for a moment and silently thanked destiny for giving his family this chance. Amina laid beside the children on the blankets and watched the ceiling. Even though she felt tired, she was happy. She believed that the house would accept them and become a part of their lives. She felt that something important waited for them inside these walls, something hidden in the long history of the place. The night grew cold. The wind made soft sounds through the broken windows. The family slept close together. They did not know yet that the mansion carried a secret hidden deep inside its floors. They did not know that their lives were about to change in a way they had never imagined. All they knew was that this old house, with its cracked walls and forgotten charm, had opened a new chapter for them. Rafik dreamed that the house whispered stories from the past. Amina dreamed of warm sunlight filling the rooms. The children dreamed of adventures in secret spaces. The mansion stood tall in the dark, waiting patiently. Something beneath its floor waited to be found, something that had rested in silence for many years.